Hey, how's everyone doing? And welcome back to Late Night with Larry. So tonight we're going to talk about Vince's experience that he had up in the Jemez Mountains with supposedly Sasquatch. I'm going to let him tell you about it. I'll just tell you that when he told me about it, I've always been a fan of Sasquatch, and I was wanting to, I want to see Sasquatch. I'm that guy, and people say I'm going to get the shit scared out of me, but Vince actually had an encounter, and I'm going to let him tell you about it.
Hey there, Vince here. How's everybody doing? Yeah, a couple years ago, we went up to the Jemez Mountains. I've always been on the fence about Sasquatch. It's always intrigued me, but I'm like everyone else. I'll believe it when I see it. But we're new to the Albuquerque area. I have my children living with me. I'm a single dad. We decided to go up to the mountains right before school started. I believe it was end of July. Get in one more camping trip, get out to the mountains before they go back. So we headed up to the Jemez Mountains. This is my first trip out there. I've never been there. I just seen my friends posting about it on social media, and it looked awesome. I said, man, that'd be perfect. They have waterfalls, they have hot springs, they have everything you would want for a good camping, hiking, fishing, whatever you want. So we headed up there, and I guess everybody and their mother had the same idea because that place was packed. Every campground, every spot was full. So we drove around to several campgrounds and everything full. We went up to, they have Fenton Lake up there. Nice little lake. We went up there and even that was full. So when we turned around to leave, there was the forest ranger, a young lady, and she started talking to me and she told me, if you want to go primitive camping, you don't have to pay. Just find a forest road and pull over somewhere. You make your own campsite and, it's free of charge. So you guys don't have to go back. So I asked the kids if they wanted to. They said, yeah, sure. So she directed me to a forest road, about a quarter mile away from Fenton Lake. I can't remember what road number it was. So we headed up there and we headed back into the mountain, I don't know, a couple miles. There was scattered campers here and there, but nobody really close. So we picked a nice flat grassy spot and we set up camp and, we just spend all day gathering firewood and the kids were goofing around. It was nice. It was nice and relaxing. I'd say around 5:00 it started to rain, so we all climbed into the tent and hunkered down. We're just relaxing, joking around, talking. The rain let up finally about 9:00, so we all poured out of the tent and we decided to make a late night dinner. Started a fire. And after we ate, my daughter and her friend, they went to lay down in the tent. And my daughter brought her dog, a little Chihuahua, so he was in the tent with them. And it was just me and my son by the fireside. We were just there. It was actually nice, perfect, because, summertime, after the rain, it was nice and cool. We're enjoying the stars and the scenery and the campfire. And I would say about 10:00, I kept seeing something out of the corner of my eye. It was, it looked like a red reflector, the round ones that they put on the side of the road. But sometimes I'd see it, sometimes I wouldn't. And I didn't think too much about it. I thought maybe there was a road back there or something because I was still pretty unfamiliar with the terrain out there. But I guess about an hour went by and, I'd see it and then it was gone. And I don't know. I didn't really think too much about it. About 11:30, just all hell broke loose. Something started screaming at us, and it was a high-pitched scream. And it couldn't have been more than 20, 30 yards away. It was right where I was seeing that red reflector light or whatever it was. And it started screaming. And it scared the crap out of me, I'm not going to lie. And I just turned to my son. I didn't even know what to say. I just asked him, was that a dog? And he looked at me, he's like, no, Dad, I don't think that was a dog. So we stood there kind of shocked. And that thing, we could hear it moving over there. And, hindsight, it was eye shine that I was seeing from the campfire. And we could hear it, moving back and forth. And it would poke its head out. We couldn't see detail because it was so dark, but we could see the eye shine. And I guess about 15 minutes later, I heard another one on the opposite side of us. It was just walking. You could hear the footsteps, and it was going up the hill across from the other one, and you could hear it. It was almost like talking. It was mumbling. And I can't. It's hard to describe. It was a low pitch mumble, and it kind of just sounds like, like if you would see a caveman on TV, kind of like that. And he walked up the hill, and I say he because the noise or the pitch of the voice was really low, as opposed to the other one. I think the other one was a female because it was really high. But the male would stop, and he was shaking the trees and, he was yelling and making funny noises. Then he'd walk toward the other one, and he'd stop and shake a tree and yell at us. And it was insane. But the male, I guess he wasn't too interested in us. He kept walking, and you could hear him walking through the brush, through the forest. And he was walking away from us. But every, 5 or 10 minutes, he would stop. He would shake a tree. He would break off a tree limb and smack the tree with it. Now, I don't know if it was they were trying to intimidate us to get us out of there, or maybe he was communicating his location with the female, which stood by our camp. She walked around the campsite the whole time. But anyway, he walked away for a good 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you could hear him in the distance. He's getting further and further. And we had some neighbors camping in a camper, in a trailer, maybe a quarter mile down the road. And I guess they heard what was going on. One guy got out of the camper and he just screamed. He said, "Hey!" And then I guess the male heard him, because the male he was doing the same thing, but he was working his way back to us. And it was at that point I decided to wake up my daughter and her friend. I went in the tent and I said, "You need to wake up. You guys need to hear this." And right at that time, one of them screamed, and my daughter's friend, her eyes just got big, and she said, "Oh my God, I heard that. What is that?" And I told him, I think I know what it is, but I want you guys to listen, and so you guys could form your own opinion. And it's funny because my daughter's Chihuahua. It's most Chihuahuas are all piss and vinegar, ready to fight anything. All that thing was doing was laying by my daughter crying. So the two girls came out of the tent, and they sat by me and my son, and they heard what was going on, the one walking around the camp and that male making his way back. So I told the kids, I said, "Whenever you don't feel comfortable, we will leave." So we stood out there maybe another 10 more minutes. And these two things were, 20 yards away. They were right in the tree line from where we were. And that's when they said, "Let's go." They jumped in the truck, and they didn't even bother to get their shoes or nothing. They're all looking out the back window at me with big eyes as I'm picking up shoes and blankets. So we headed down the mountain there. They have places where you could pull off and fish during the day. We found what we thought was a pretty safe spot, and we waited there until the sun came up. And then when the sun came up, we went back, we packed up everything, and we left. Looking back, I should have probably looked around for some evidence, but to be honest with you, I was too damn scared. I just wanted to get my equipment and get out of there, and my kids felt the same way. So, and I should have talked to the neighbor too, but I came home. I remember nobody slept that night. I went to lay down to take a nap, and I couldn't sleep. I just laid in bed. And the only thought going through my head is, what in the hell was that? I had a good idea that it was a Sasquatch, but it just took me a while to register and, digest everything that happened. But the only thing going through my head is, I'm never going back to the forest again. And man, it was just nuts. And that's how I felt until a couple of days later. I called my brother here, and I told him the story, and that's where he comes in. I didn't want to go back, but he wanted to go up there.
Yeah, and I can remember the first time he told me the story. He told it with such conviction that I was like, "Yo, shit!" He's for real. He had a genuine experience out there. So me being the curious one, and they say curiosity killed the cat. Well, it depends about what cat you're talking about. But I was curious and I wanted to go out there and experience it for myself. So it took me some time to talk him back, to going back out there. And, I had to convince him because he genuinely didn't want to go. And through some coercion and I guess just, like a little kid, let's go. He finally gave in and we went out there. So he walked me through, we went to the same spot. He walked me through where, he saw the eye shine, the height the eye shine was and where the other ones were. And, as he was telling me that, I picture it in my mind and I was like, man, I don't know what I would have done. I would have probably left too. I would have been freaked out. I would have packed my shit and headed down the mountain too. But, people say, I've listened to a lot of stories about Sasquatch and they say, you always want to see one, but when you finally see one, you wish you wouldn't have. And, to this day, I'm like, yeah, maybe so, but I'm still curious. I don't care if I see that motherfucker cross the road. I just want to see one.
Right.
And maybe more so, maybe just so that I could say, yeah, they're real and make me a believer.
Right. I didn't see like a whole lot of detail other than the eye shine, but still, that scared the shit out of me where I didn't want to go back. But and it's funny because after you convinced me to go back that first time,
right
now it's I wouldn't say it's an obsession, but I want to see one. A better view.
Right. I mean, you've already had that first real encounter and you're like, you just want to prove to yourself, is that really what I think it was? And we've been back many times since. And, I'm not going to lie. There's some nights where we were asleep and I heard shit that I can't explain. For instance, one night we were asleep and I'd say about 3 a.m, my brother, made sure I was awake. He's like, hey, you awake? And, I'm like, yeah. I said, did you hear that? And I'm like, yeah, what the fuck is that? And what I heard, it's off in the distance and, in the mountains, sound could carry, but it has to be a loud sound because you got all the trees that muffle the sound. But that sound was carrying and it sounded like... I don't know, a big motherfucker. If it was a man, he was a big motherfucker. Just the scream and the depth of the lungs and how it held for, I don't know a man that could scream. Even rock stars that sing, I don't think they could scream and hold it that loud and that deep.
Right, and we've been to the mountains enough. We've heard bears, we heard mountain lions, and we've heard elk bugling. It was none of that. It was just a scream that you couldn't. I don't know, it's hard to describe unless you hear it yourself.
Right, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
And we've been there before. We always hear a lot of tree snaps, tree knocks. It's crazy. Sometimes we hear them on both sides of the ridge like they're communicating.
Right.
I think they're telling each other, hey, these idiots are back.
They probably are. They're like, they're not going to leave us alone. Well, and this last time we were out there, and it was just recently... We were just sitting there and end of camping season. Me and my brother just sitting there. And out of nowhere, we heard like a bottle got thrown. And if any of you have ever heard a bottle hit a dirt road, it makes a hollow thump sound like doop, doop, doop. And we looked at each other and said, did you hear that? And we're like, we're the only motherfuckers out here. Either we're going senile and having the same delusion or... something through a bottle.
Yep, and it was distinct and it was close.
Yeah, it was, and shit like that. You think, oh yeah, I'm a brave camper. When you hear shit like that and you're the only ones out there in that forest and it's getting dark, you think twice.
Right, and like you said, you think you're a brave camper. It's funny because after everything I've been through on that mountain, we went up there for that camping trip and. Somebody, I won't mention no names, forgot their tent. So they had to come down the mountain and left me up there alone. It was daylight. It was in the evening. But once I was up there all alone listening to the sounds, it is fucking spooky up there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is, People go up there in their RVs and their campers and whatnot. And, I give kudos to people that just go up there with the tent.
That's what we do.
And that's what we do, and it's scary as hell. You're like, creatures out here could rip this tent apart and get to me while I'm all freezing trying to get warm in that tent. But
yeah, we would be nothing more than a burrito for the Squatch.
That's it. And it's, it's just something I want to experience. And there's, there's people all over this country that have sightings every day. And, I'm not saying that I'm so obsessed that I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time Sasquatch hunter unless someone wants to fund me and give me that much money. But it's a subject that it intrigues me because it's either this whole country's having a fucking mass delusion or there's millions of liars.
Right. And there's a lot of sightings reported, but I think a lot go unreported because people are afraid of ridicule.
Right. I mean, look, I'm your brother and you didn't want to tell me.
Right. And I'm still cautious about who I tell because some people, they either believe you or they're like, you're fucking nuts. Right. What are you smoking?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, getting back to our last camping trip, we heard the bottle on night 1. Tell them what you heard on night 2 when we were both asleep in the tent.
Oh, just the scream?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean...
And that wasn't the first scream you've ever heard, but
no,
this is probably one of the closest.
Yes, and it was kind of like the same scream I heard that first night, but it's just a blood-curdling scream, and it's like... Hey, what the fuck is out there? We almost... I'm going to be truthful. As grown men, we almost packed it up and got the fuck out of there.
Yep.
Because it does get scary, and you're thinking, okay, I wanted to see this, but if 7, 8, 9 foot big hairy man comes out of those trees, I'm gonna fucking feel my britches.
Yeah, and it's strange. I don't know what to think. Some people say they're nonviolent, but then you get the stories like the Big Thicket in Texas where they are violent, or we've heard stories or read stories about other places in the country where they are violent. They have killed people. Right. But that night when I was there with my kids, I honestly believe if they wanted us, they could have taken us.
Oh yeah, and you hear that
I think the male really had no interest in us.
Right.
But the female, because my daughter and her friend were young, they're still, they're children. Right. So I think that's what interested the female.
They're thinking, oh, look, we could adopt these two.
Yep.
Look, they're being neglected. They have no hair on them.
Right? Or ain't no fat on their body.
Right. Look at those poor kids. They don't feed them.
They're malnutrition. Look how small their feet are.
Right? Oh, no. They're stunted growth. Poor things.
Yeah, but back to the subject. We've been out there several times, and almost every trip out there, we've heard something.
Every trip.
And we can't definitively say, it was a Sasquatch or whatever, but it's just things that make you think, and, there's no other animal that hears the noises that, or that makes the noises we hear.
No, there's not. And we do know the sounds. We were out there that one time, and it was early morning, and that we heard that bear running toward our camp. Toward the camp, and of course you could hear that bear. It's heavy huffing and puffing, and you're like, oh, I know what that is, and it's coming this way.
But we had to think about it too. What would scare a bear into running like that?
Right. And then all of a sudden, that bear just got quiet.
Yeah. I think he smelled us, our camp, and then he's like, whoop, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, he said, wrong way, I smell fire.
Yep.
Yeah, but, and I always think, okay, if there is a Bigfoot, where did it come from? How did it survive? And is it a government experiment gone wrong, or is it an ancestor of Gigantopithecus?
Right. And see, that's just it. There's a lot of evidence. Maybe some people won't say it's substantial evidence, but the thing is, the scientific world will not take it seriously. Mm-hmm. And the ones that do, they're mocked or, shunned.
Criticized. Yep. Pseudoscience.
Right.
Crazy fuckers out there looking for nothing that exists.
And like everybody says, it's going to take a body. But if you bring in a body, that body's going to disappear. I guarantee it.
Well, it's going to take a body, and we heard all these hunters that tell their stories, and they say, I could have bought you a body, but when I saw the face and how human it looked, I didn't want to shoot it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's another reason why I want to see one. I'm like, does it really look human, or...
Right, because you see all these drawings or pictures, and there's similarities, but they all look different. So, but like you said, I'd like to see one for myself where I could make out detail and see how human it is.
Right. Yeah, and if you look at that and you see detail, and you're like, damn, that looks like me in the morning. Shit,
Or at last call at the bar.
That's right. It's like, damn. Okay, now what really is it? So
yes, And getting back to Sasquatch stories, my brother and I, we've been to the reservation a lot. We have a lot of native friends around here in New Mexico and the Four Corners area,
right?
And they have some very interesting stories.
Right, and of course, the natives, they've been in their culture since we go back, and since they've been writing on cave walls.
Right.
And yeah,
but. So. To them, they know the existence is real. And some of them will say, I thought they were just folklore that the adults passed down to the children, to keep us close to the village or, make us behave. But a lot of them have had their own experience and they're like, holy shit, it's real.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but we would, when I had my experience, I Googled Bigfoot or Sasquatch in the Jemez, and I was surprised at how many incidents there have been up there.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone watches, what is it, Discovery or History that has...
Or Travel Channel or
that has
all those, yeah.
The Searching for Bigfoot.
Finding Bigfoot. Well,
Finding
that
Bigfoot.
was Animal Planet, but that's not on any longer, but I'm sure most people know what it is.
Yeah, well, that series, Finding Bigfoot, they had an episode where they went to the Jemez and they were searching for Bigfoot, and they interviewed people, and I saw that episode, and some of the stories that those people told, it's like, well, shit, that's right in our alley.
Right. And if you look it up, I believe it's even on a news site, some of the best thermal image of a Sasquatch is filmed up in the Jemez. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
On that episode, they showed, and now they're saying we can't definitely say it's a Sasquatch, but they showed a big body mass in the thermal walking through the trees.
Yes.
And, I'm like, it possibly could be because they're seen there.
Right, but if you go up there and you see a big body mass like that, ain't going to be nobody up there just walking around.
And that's why people say, oh, it's staged, it's fake. I'm like, you're up here in the mountains and it gets cold up there, even in the summertime.
Yeah.
And who the hell's going to walk around these mountains, especially in the dark like that? It's scary as shit.
Yep.
And not to mention you got mountain lions, bears. Yeah. So I just tend to think that I'm going to lean on the side that, they are real. Kind of like when the Eminem guy saw Santa Claus. He is real.
Exactly. And me, I've changed. I'm not a believer. I'm a knower because I know what happened that night. I know what was there. But, I'm not out to convince anybody because I know. But I'd like to see it again. And I'd like my brother to see it also.
Yeah, and that's all. Just see it one time, and I'll probably be happy. I probably won't want to see it again, but just one time.
We'll be camping at the kiddie pond after that.
That's right. If no matter where we see it, we'll avoid that spot. I'm almost sure of it.
But we would like to hear if you guys have any stories you'd like to share with us. We'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
And if you want, we could even read them on here or even have you on, or we'll figure something out.
Right.
And how would they get us those stories?
Well, you could email us at latenightwithlarry55@gmail.com. Now that's all one word, latenightwithlarry55. And send us your information. We'll reach out to you and, get your take on it. I'm sure everyone has a story to tell.
Yes, and this is something that is very near and dear to our hearts. We're very interested in it. We love the subject. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, we would. So, on that note, I know this isn't a very long episode, but it's one that we wanted to get out and tell you guys our side of the story and invite you to share your story with us. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. If you have a story, like I said, email us. I gave you the email, and we hope to hear from you.
Right. And thanks for tuning in and listen to us jabber.
That's right. Thank you.